Hi, so I'm here today with Davina Kent. Davina played soccer at San Diego State University, and now she's the VP of Client Solutions at Ampersand. She previously was at Comcast. She was at TiVo, where she actually worked with my dad, and DirecTV. So I'm excited to be speaking to her today. So, Davina, do you think you could just start off by, explaining a little bit about your career path, and how your experience in college athletics sort of contributed to that?
Sure, yeah, thanks for having me, Jane. Yeah, so I was actually a child of Title IX. So Title IX was a federal law that passed that said that any university in the United States had to give equal budgeting to both men and women's sports. So as a result, my first year at San Diego State was the first year that they had a women's soccer team. So I was able to walk on to the team. There was no recruitment at that time because there was no team. So we shared the coach with the men's soccer team. And at the time, Eric Winalda, who was on the national team, was on the men's soccer team. So it was a really good program. So that was kind of how I was able to start playing at San Diego State, which was became a very competitive program very quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I can't imagine, like, not having to go through, like, this crazy recruiting process when all the teams were just starting, you know? How did
I don't know how you guys do it these days. I
Yeah,
mean, it is a lot, and I've gone through it with my friends' kids and everything, and just the ID camps and all of the work that goes in to just be seen and the competition there. But the good thing is that women's sports, as a result of Title IX, is now really taken off when you look at like the Caitlin Clarks and all of that going on and all the other sports with women in them. So
yeah, it's definitely really cool to be, like, a college athlete right now, like, during this sort of era of women's sports and getting to watch it and be a part of it.
well, plus you can make money now, right? With the NIL,
Yeah,
is like super cool.
yeah,
I think there's a lot of business that's going to come of that as well.
yeah, for sure. How has, your experience as a college athlete sort of contributed to your professional career and sort of led you to where you are today?
So, yeah, no, that's a great question. So, my first job out of college was at Disney, and then I was quickly recruited over to DirecTV before they launched. And while I was at DirecTV, I had graduated with an international business degree, and I wanted to move in international business. And DirecTV was getting ready to launch in South America. So I interviewed with someone, an old boss of mine named Tom Tracy, who hired me mainly not because I had really any experience. I was an assistant at Disney and DirecTV. He hired me because of playing team sports, and that was literally that because of that on my resume. I was able to get the job at DirecTV, launch DirecTV down in South America, and that role really changed my career trajectory and the amount of experience that I was able to gain through that. And his leadership style was also kind of very similar to a coach's style, which I really enjoyed. And I think I got a lot of opportunity because I fit very well in the organization because of that.
Yeah. I think, like, something that I've found after doing a few internships is, like, really being able to, like, read people and, like, being able to communicate with people, and I feel like that comes a lot from, like, playing a team sport as well and, like, learning other people's, like, styles of how they like to be communicated.
Yeah, the emotional EQ. I also think the strategy and being able to think a couple steps ahead and things like that. I also think maybe, while we have a rigorous practice schedule, 3 hours a day every day and travel on the weekends, I think I just see my friends' kids that play sports, and I'm sure this is what you've had to your commitment. I don't know. It's so hard how you're able to commit to the time that's needed to be play at the level you need to play in college sports. Combine that with the rigor of your work schedule. I mean, I feel like any company should hire someone that's played sports in college because if you're able to graduate playing sports the whole time, you had to do a lot of extra work than anyone else that graduated from that university. So I think it says something about your work ethic as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, but, when you love playing, like, you find a way to get it done for sure.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about this is I mean, leaning a little bit away from, like, career advice, but, I'm sort of in a little bit of a transition year because 'cause I'm leading into a season where I'm only taking 2 classes, and this is, like, my 6th year of playing college basketball, so I'm, like, heading towards the end of my playing career. How did you deal with, like, the identity, like, finding your own identity, like, outside of sports? Because I feel like it all kinda hits you really quickly as soon as, your season ends and you graduate and you kind of have to just find a job immediately.
Yeah, you just give me goosebumps. I continue to play. For me, I did I needed that team, you know, the whole team concept and then the exercise. I loved it. And so I actually the whole time I played on club teams after college. And I even when I was with TiVo, when I worked with your dad, and I went over to the London, I was an expat in London launching TiVo over in the UK. I actually played with the team of girls that used to play at Northwestern,
Oh, okay.
and it was super fun because we played indoor in Notting Hill in this pretty large indoor park, and it was all men, and there was only one. Field for women. And when we would play, because women at that time, I'll just say it's showing my age, but at that time, women in the UK didn't really play soccer. It was not really a thing.
Yeah.
It's completely changed now, and or football, I should say, in the UK. And so when they saw the level of play that we had, the guys would all like we would be the most popular, match on the thing. They would be all hanging around. And my team ended up getting recruited by QPR, which is one of the club teams in the UK, but I couldn't do it because I was traveling and working too much. But then I ended up quitting after I moved back to the US because I ended up getting pretty injured. I broke my nose after going up for a head ball, and I had a big presentation to our CEO on that Monday. And I'm like, this is, I'm getting too old for this. People do not believe me that I'm playing soccer, and that's what happened. I broke my nose. So I quit in my early 30s.
Okay.
Like, so.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely helpful, like, as you're going through that early transition out of playing, like, you're going from spending so many hours of your day, like, doing one sport that it's really hard to, just give it up as soon as you
I don't think you have to give it up. I mean, I hopefully you don't, right? I think
and I feel like a sport like soccer or basketball, like, there's always opportunities to play, like, recreationally or club sports. I feel like it's a lot easier, just
and
find a place.
I also think mentoring, other women or people that are playing your sport and transitioning in the career. I mean, I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
And then if you're able to find a career in women's sports, that's even better, because then you
Yeah,
get to kind of stay close from that perspective. And it's a hot industry right now.
yeah, for sure.
Mm.
What, can you like describe any like challenges that you faced like immediately during your transition, into the workforce coming from college athletics?
Um,
If there were any.
well, I think I did start to get a little fearful of injuries. So I was very picky about the teams that I would play with, so that they were kind of same level of play, so that I wasn't getting injured. That was like probably the main thing, but it's been a
Yeah.
while. So it could have been other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like, one thing talking a little bit more about like heading into like the workforce and a professional setting, I feel like one thing that I've sort of had to I feel like get over and learn how to deal with is like being new and being someone who doesn't know everything. Like I just started my internship last week. And so it's definitely an adjustment, like not being the one that people are like going to. And like, when you've been a leader on your team for so many years and like put in a setting where you're the new one and you're the beginner, I feel like that's definitely, a challenge in itself that you have to learn how to deal with.
Yeah, but I find you're gonna feel that every time you start a new job too, right? I feel that, right? I'm in transition right now, from Ampersand into what my next role will be, and I feel like and I stay with companies for a long time, like, my average is, 8 I think it was 8 years at TiVo, I've been at 15 years at Comcast and Ampersand, and you become the expert. When you start the new job, you start from, you're not the expert anymore. So I feel like you're gonna have that throughout your career, and I think it's supernatural, but I don't think it's just related to sports. I think it's related to you being, used to being an expert and knowing exactly what you need to be doing to go into a more vulnerable position where you're learning and you're the underdog.
Yeah,
Kinda like going like when you're new into high school and you're a freshman and then you're a senior, you know what I mean? Those transitions as well when you're a senior and you're kind of the big man on campus, so,
for sure.
yeah.
Um, Dealing with like that sort of thing and also just in the professional setting in general, has mentorship sort of played any sort of role in your post-college, athletic sort of journey professionally or personally?
Absolutely. So, for me, I had a lot of, uh, executives in my career take me under their wing. So I've always had both male and female, mentors. It is a big reason I've had so much opportunity is I've been lucky to work, with, people that saw something in me, gave me an opportunity. Obviously, I seized the opportunity, but I got the opportunity through these mentors. So I've had that. I've in recent years, so I have a 15-year-old daughter, and and a lot of my friends have kids that are about your age or a little younger, and I find that you do all this work to get into like really good school, right? And the parents are like doubling down on all this work that you have to do to get into good school or get onto the team. And part of that is whether you're taking a sports path or not. And then once you get into the school, it's like, okay, now what do you do? Right. And then you got to get good grades. And I think that I've noticed there isn't as many resources for that transition for college students between from when they come out of college to go into the workforce. Some universities have good programs to like one that I really like is Northeastern has the co-op program where it's part of your curriculum to have an internship. But the competition to get internships is so hard, and, I think the resources are limited, so I've really tried in the last probably, like, 3 years to really help all my friends, kids that I know, whatever it is, with through my network, if it's just connecting them to a hiring manager or helping them curate their resume or helping them just navigate the process they're going through or help them get internships. So it's something I'm like super passionate about. I'm actually heading to Cannes Lions next week,
Oh, that's awesome.
and my daughter has a internship with Brand Innovators, which I'm super excited about. And she's
Okay.
going with 6 of her friends that are all going into, they're older than her going into college. So I'm going to be a chaperone of 7 interns for Brand Innovators at Cannes
Okay.
next week. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mhm.
I think, like, obviously, no matter what, if you were an athlete or non-athlete, like, it's super important post-graduation or even leading into, like, your junior and senior years to, have people in your network, whether it's, like, parents, friends, coaches, friends, like, whatever it is that are willing to help you, and
Well, and I do think like people that are alumni from your university, you should be targeting those companies where alumni are at, especially alumni that played sports at your
yeah.
school, so hopefully you're working that alumni network because I know that is how I got in addition to my first kind of break that I got from Tom Tracy, in addition to me playing sports, he also went to San Diego State.
Yeah,
So those two things were kind of why I got the position. So
yeah. Um, Last question, is there any advice that you would give to any former athletes or, anyone in my position heading into their last year, of their sport who are starting to, sort of navigate the job search process.
Well, I love what you're doing. I mean, this is super cool doing a project and I mean, you're basically doing informational interviews to figure out, your next move. So I love that. I think, work your network, specifically your alumni. I think the one thing that I find and it might be a generational thing and I don't know if it's specific to sports. It's not specific to sports, but it may not athletes may not have this challenge, but I find that a lot of times the people that I'm mentoring aren't sure how to communicate with that hiring manager once they get that connection. How often should they send emails? Should they call? What's appropriate to ask for? And I think using text and social media as a primary communication vehicle when you get into the work life, I think that transition is really, really hard.
Mhm.
Um, and then I do think keeping and leverage your network of people that are in that played sports and went to your school. And then I think stay playing the sport. I think because I think that the endorphins you get and this, all the exercise that you get out of sport and that competition is a really important that you have to continue because that's where I think if you don't have that, that's something that's really hard to replace.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and, speaking to me. This was really, really helpful. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for having me.